Welcome back to Veterans Forum, a program by veterans, about veterans, for veterans and their families. I'm your co-host Bob West with Ray Chattery and Jerry Devlin. Our goal is to provide important information on legislation, benefits, support, and activities important to you and your family by interviewing leaders in our community. Jerry, who do we have with us today?
We're very happy and honored to have with us tonight the mayor of Bowie, G. Fred Robinson, who's been mayor for quite some time. In fact, his political supporters and opponents both tend to refer to him as mayor for life. And during this long tenure in both the city council, and in fact, I had a full head of hair and it was black when Fred first got elected. And he's been a great friend of veterans and veterans causes, and is, of course, himself a veteran serving in the 101st Airborne, guys who jumped out of planes for a small amount of money. We're really happy to have Fred with us tonight. He's been a great mayor and a great friend.
Well, thank you, Jerry. Good to be with you guys.
Oh, yeah. We're always a bunch of fun, we are.
Yeah.
Especially with two Marines, you know.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk slowly.
We'll try to bring them up a little
That's right. We'll just talk slowly.
Be careful, because I served in the oxymoron, Marine intelligence.
Well, as you know, this program has been going on for 30 years, and this is going to be our last show. So we're welcoming you as our final guest. Sort of like a last hurrah.
Guest?
But we've gotten a lot of support from the city, of course, and the veterans organizations do, including all the work that's done over Veterans Park and the Memorial Day Parade and so forth. So, and all the additions to the park itself, with the benches and the memorial, even painting the cannon and pointing it in the right direction. You know?
Well, we get the Marines to stand up and say, which way does the barrel go?
That's right. So, since veterans are also citizens of our city,
Indeed they are.
Maybe you could tell us a few of the activities that are going on here for the general citizenship.
Well, the one thing that was really pleasant, I just had an experience this week where Morgan Stanley Chase and Homecoming America provide homes for disabled veterans, or wounded warrior kind of people. And they just presented a home to a young couple up on Knowledge Lane. If you're an infantry grunt like I was, the one guy you want to be good friends was the combat medic. And this young man was a medic, and he was wounded in Middle East, and spent a long time in a hospital. But they presented the 1,000th. The 1,000th home that they have converted for use for wounded warriors, and it's on Knowledge Lane. So I spent an hour or so with them. And the guy looked great. His wife, they're from Michigan. His wife looked like she's about 12 years old, but nice couple. And you just saw everybody. Everybody in the neighborhood was there, and just welcoming this young couple into the community. We talked a little bit, and I told him about all the veterans groups that are here and all the things that are active. Suggested he's eligible for DAV, VFW, and the Legion. So I encourage him to join up with them. But the veterans play a real part in this city. I enjoy my interaction with the veterans, except for Jerry sometimes. But we have a very large veteran community here. And, like we just ticked off, we got the American Legion, the VFW, the DAV, the Marine Corps League. And they're an integral part. And if you want to see them, you can come to the Memorial Day Parade, you can pick Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and you guys were the ones that really helped shape the way that that park up in Huntington, the Memorial Park. But talk about the cannon, I remember getting a call in the middle of the night a while back, and somebody said a drunk just smashed his car into the wall at Veterans Park. And my first thought was he hit the memorial wall. And I said, oh my God, how am I going to fix that? And it turned out he hit the flagpole. Well, he hit the cannon first,
right.
Hit it so hard he drove the barrel into the ground and ricocheted off that and hit the base of the flagpole. So I figured the flagpole we could repair fairly easy, but had no clue. Where do you go to get a cannon repaired? And one of the veteran groups came up and said, well, we got a guy over here, and he's a master welder or something, he'll fix it. And they took it away and brought it back, and it's in perfect shape. But those are the kinds of people that pop up all across the city. They're doctors, lawyers, teachers, and they all have that common service credo behind them. And I just enjoy the heck out of hanging around with you guys.
Well, you know, on Veterans Day and Memorial Day, we do have a big turnout at Veterans Park, and a lot of the groups come out there and show their support for veterans.
Well, you know, I remember, you know, I don't think I've missed a Veterans Day or Memorial Day in, you know, a couple of decades, but I remember when we used to come up there, we'd maybe have a dozen guys show up. Now we have 2 or 3 times that many wreaths presented. So to me, that's an incredible sign of the way veterans ought to be recognized in the city. And I love it, you know, because there's the Boy Scouts there, there's Cub Scouts there, Girl Scouts there. There's all kinds of business and social and civic organizations that are there. And, you know, for those couple of hours, it's really, really great to see the community come together over that.
And the Marine Corps League is really active. I always see you guys dressed up in your red, going to some kind of an anniversary or a party or a function or something. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
The Red Blazers.
The Red Blazers really stand out.
Yeah.
Going back to the cannon, Mike Heilig is the guy who fixed it.
Did he?
And yeah, he lives here in Bowie, and it was really amazing.
They barrel or something, didn't they? They had to cut some of it off. Or
Right. And, well, he fixed it and he turned it around.
Yeah.
But he went and he actually got World War II paint.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Where'd
official
you find that
World War
olive
II
drab
paint. Yeah, I don't know
You
where
don't
he
go
got
to
it.
Sears for it, I'm sure.
But as I say, there again, he did some research and he did a fantastic job
Yeah, oh,
at getting
it's
that
perfect.
went back together. Right.
Who put the lipstick on it?
Well, Fred was MC at the Veteran of the Years thing, and he announced that the Marines Corps League is where the Red Blazers, if you had trouble parking your car, we've dressed our car park valet
Well,
people.
you know, I apologize at the beginning of my comments. You know, I made a very serious social faux pas. I thought the guys in the red jackets were valet parking, but I did tell them I wanted my $2 back.
Well, you know, in London they have a veterans home. It's called the Chelsea Pensions. Most of them very old, and they're World War II mostly, and they wear these red jackets. And a friend of mine was in the London detachment, was married to an English woman, and she had never seen the red blazer before. She says, "My God," she said, "you're going to wear that in public?" He said, "You'll look like one of the Chelsea pensioners."
Like I say,
we marched in the parade one time, 15,000 British veterans. And I marched, the Marine Corps League marches with the Royal Marines. The only redcoats in the British parade were the Marine Corps
the American
League.
Marines.
Marines.
Yeah, the redcoats are coming. Not really.
One more time. Yeah.
But like I say, there's some groups I go to a lot of groups and a lot of activities, but I must confess I feel so much more comfort level, you know, going to any kind of a veterans thing, and you know, I get hammered every time I go there. You know, you guys take great pleasure
And vice
in picking
versa.
on me. Yeah. And I struggle to defend myself from time to time. I mean, these guys gave me my nickname. You know, I'm Plan
Yeah.
B.
Plan B. Yep.
Tony Begenwald, we had some very prestigious speaker, and he had an automobile accident the day of the Marine Corps anniversary ball.
Right. Yeah.
He said, "So we've got Fred Robinson, and he's going to come as Plan B."
Yeah.
So the name has lasted.
Well, the true story is this guy calls me a couple hours before the end. "Hey, Fred, we got a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "We had a great speaker lined up for the birthday party, but
No, the Veteran of the Year.
But he had a terrible accident." And I said, "Well, what's the problem?" He said, "We need a speaker." They said, "Oh, well, when is it?" And he said, "About 2 hours."
That was 24 hours.
Yeah,
really.
we got through it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The mission comes first.
right,
Right.
right.
That's it. But like I say, you know, everywhere I go, I see the veterans guys and guys that I've met through there. Matter of fact, I was over to Home Depot over the weekend, and I stopped to chat with a guy there that I know is a retired sergeant major. And while I was there, the manager of the store walked by, so this guy wanted to introduce me to the manager, and I did. I had a nice conversation with him. And he says, "You're a veteran too, right?" And I said, "Yeah." So he was passing out, you know, some things recognizing veterans and giving them like a discount if you buy $50, $60 worth of stuff. So I thought that was just kind of a completely unexpected thing. Came in that Thanksgiving, Christmas thing, and it's little touches like that, I think, that reflect the real people's appreciation for veterans.
Well, there's been a huge change in the last 15, 20 years as far as the community and Veterans Association goes, because there's a lot of restaurants, if you ask them, do they do military discounts? And yes, we do. And,
Yeah.
all you have to do is ask. And it's amazing how many of these firms do it on a regular basis. But The DAV has changed a lot in the last 10 or 15 years. And we're helping more and more people up there.
Right. Yeah, we have the service officers. We have 6 now. And the one, Joe came in from Glen Burnie, and he came to me and he said he really wanted to do the service officer program. And in 2 years, and this is a saying I always had, he took our service program from kindergarten to the PhD level.
Oh, great.
I mean, just fantastic. They meet at the DAV every Monday evening from 6 to 9. And we had the little building out there called the smoker shed, so people had to smoke and they didn't have to be out in the weather. Well, with the way it's gone downhill, it was never being used. So Joe came up to me and asked if he could use the building. I said, we gave it to them to use, so that's our service officer headquarters.
Good.
And one thing good about that is that they don't have to wait for the DAV to open at noon. They can go in there at 8 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning if they want to, you know, and because they all have keys to get in there. They have all their computers and printers and everything, and it's just a really nice thing.
It's an important thing, you know. People understand you got a lot of young guys coming back now from the Middle East, and with some really serious injuries, and some that don't show up right away, and some that are not obvious. And that's why the service officers are just terrific, you know, walking them through the process. Because I think everybody, I think it's like the one thing that I've noticed in the last few years, there's been a genuine effort, I think, in Washington and in Annapolis to focus on Veterans Affairs in a more conscientious way than has been done for a long period of time.
And I believe I had Joe give you a call, and the city donated the hall over here for their big service program that they had in April, I believe it was.
Yeah, well, we're glad to do that. I mean, we really appreciate the you know, service from these people, and like I say, you see all these young guys coming in, and now, and it's great because you get this generational thing, because we still have a number of World War II guys here, have a lot of Korean guys, got a lot of Vietnam guys, and then we have this whole battalion of guys from the Middle East now. And it's good when those generations can interact amongst themselves.
Well, it's also important to help veterans, especially those that do have some challenges. Jerry often alludes to the fact that we now have a veterans court in Maryland.
Yeah.
And
it's
you
not
know,
an insignificant change, by the way.
No.
Took a lot of work, you know, all you guys up there lobbying, and Senator Peters and everybody. There's a Veterans Caucus up there now that kind of took the lead on getting that done. Because sometimes vets get lost in the process. Sometimes they don't know how to, you know, pursue their rights.
And the legislature is difficult because when I was, just a long time ago, when I first came to the legislature, 75% of the male members were veterans. And, you know, it got down to like 20%. Now, what's happening all over the country in the recent congressional elections, veterans are getting elected to Congress, both at the state level and at the congressional level.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of vets elected this time, and they're in both parties.
and a lot of women.
Which I think is good.
Women veterans, too.
Yeah, men and women veterans.
Yeah.
And some of them are seriously disabled veterans, but you know, this is just a continuation of that service.
Right. And the other thing, too, and we mentioned it to Secretary Owings when he was here, about some of the changes in rules and regulations about certification for spouses.
Yeah.
You know, they're nurses or whatever they are, and they have to get recertified for every state they're in, which is kind of silly. So now you get the acceptance of that, which is extremely important since they move every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, to build up a career.
Sure. What was the young brigadier general that spoke at the
David.
the guy that's running the retreat thing?
Blackledge.
Blackledge has an impressive program that they've built up here in Maryland, where it's like a retreat. It's mostly for military veterans that are suffering from PTSD. And what they do is they bring them in and they put them down for 7, 10, 12 days, whatever it is, and it's counseling, it's job preparation, everything. They have a rack of clothes in case you need clothes to go for interviews and stuff. But it's one of those, I think Jerry and I think the three of us were talking about it afterwards, his presentation. It's one of those where people looked at a problem and they created a treatment process around the veteran, as opposed to creating this treatment process and trying to match it up with the veterans. It really looked like it was very well done. He's had some significant successes. Sometimes they have both spouses come in for a while. So it's confidence building. They have them going through those, recon kind of things, and a lot of classroom, a lot of counseling. Like I said, a lot of encouragement if you need business help or if you want to get back into employment. And those are the things I think that really set off, they identify a need, they put this program together that's around what the need is, instead of trying to match the people to a pre-existing condition.
Yeah, he's the director of Veteran Services at Melwood.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they're the umbrella that
Right,
does it.
right, they are. And he was the guest speaker at the Veterans Center here and at the Senior Center, the Veterans Day program, and then at the Knights of Columbus breakfast that we have for Veterans Day, which was very, very good.
Yeah, I like the one story is that he was a senior officer and was sent back to Iraq after he'd been wounded severely, and then after he got like 8 months of recovery, he went back, reported in, and the day they sent him back again, and he arrived in Iraq, and he was scheduled to go to a hotel, and they said they've been picking up some intelligence that they were concerned about, so they could take him out of the hotel he had been assigned to, and they were going to put him in another one, and then they put him in there, and while he was in the lobby, the people came in and blew up the new hotel.
Yeah.
So I mean, how's that for good luck?
Right, yeah. And he had a service dog.
Yeah.
Because of the PTSD.
Yeah.
And those service dogs are really something.
Oh, they are special.
And
And the other thing too is just the visibility that the DAV has brought a lot of veterans' attention to the benefits and services that are available. As opposed to we have no idea where you were, which is the problem we always had at Allen's Pond when vets would say, well, where are you? Well, we'd say we're in the white building on 197, and what white building is that?
Yeah.
So visibility has always been extremely important.
And it's been good because, like I say, you're at all of the big city civic events at Allen Pond. There's 3 or 4 of them every summer, and I know you guys are all together down there. There's all the so any vet in Bowie now that doesn't know where the Legion is or doesn't know where the DAV, can find you.
Right.
It's not that difficult.
But that electronic sign that Senator Peters got for us was really fantastic.
Yeah.
And as I say, it was Bob's idea that brought it up.
But I think what's good is that the DAV itself and the VFW and Legion and Marine Corps League have taken a strong outreach over the last 8, 10, 12 years, whatever. And I think that's where it just, you invest an hour and you get back an hour, and people see you. And they see you as really, important people and real people.
Well, the DAV's function, it really is particularly, the other organizations that we all belong to, they combine a lot of social programs and things like that. But like at the National Convention of the DAV, there's no fun nights like we have at the other organizations. Everything is meetings and veterans care. And
Business.
So it's really, and a great many people walk off the street and they find that they had service connected that they hadn't themselves. And we had a guy who went only because the Marine Corps League and the DAV, they change hats. They meet the second Tuesday and the second Wednesday, and he just went because he was one of the guys, and he's got like a 35% disability on it.
One thing that's important that a lot of people don't realize, if you served in the military, you're a veteran. And especially the lady veterans, they kind of like that gets lost in the mainstream of things. And as I say, it's a while to bring it to attention. If you served in the military and you got an honorable discharge or a medical discharge or whatever, you are a veteran and you rate benefits. And that's why we're there at the DAV to take care of this, to either file a claim or even get it upgraded. You'd be surprised how many times Joe would.
But that's the other thing I think is that I'm seeing a lot of now, and I think it's because of the synergism that's developed by you guys getting out. I see a lot of corporations now that have taken a real serious effort toward hiring veterans and bringing veterans in and making them available. I was watching a news show over the Thanksgiving thing, and they had all these veteran-owned businesses. And they were everything from the traditional shirts and hats and stuff to one veteran had created this brand of hot sauces and stuff. This is Taste the Freedom or something like that. and it's really going to. I think it's become a solid corporate policy now to open up their hiring thing, and proactively look out for veterans. Not only are you going to get a good guy or a good gal that's disciplined and structured, understands, punctuality, understands appearance, understands responsibility. That's a corporate. Even if you retrain them to do the service that you need to have done, you're bringing in people that have an incredible work ethic, that are dependable and honorable, and both win. The veteran wins and the corporation wins.
And then,
I like the Veterans Craft Beer. Veterans Craft Beer. It's available down there at Virginia Beach or something.
You've become an expert.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
Cyber war that we're in the world, veterans today are so much incredibly more trained than we were.
Yeah.
I mean, the Marine Corps.
Well, you still had that little key, right?
I mean, you learn to march behind the guy in front of you and shoot a rifle. But now these, like General Regner was telling me at one of the Marine Corps League conventions, every squad in the Marine Corps has a cyber person.
Yeah.
And he said, like, he said, referring to us, he said, you might as well have fought 1,000 years ago compared to the present military.
I'll tell you a funny story. We'd have, during the summers, we'd bring a lot of veterans in for different events. And I was with something over, I think it was at Base Ox anyway. We had a group of young disabled warriors, wounded warrior guys there. And I'm talking to this Army Staff Sergeant who looked like he was 12 years old, had made 3 or 4 deployments to the Middle East. And he's telling me all this high-tech stuff that he has available to him as an infantry guy. And little things like, you have a patch of water on your back with a little tube. When you get thirsty, you drink at it. And I'm listening to this. I looked at him and said, would it embarrass you to know that in my day, high-tech was a shovel that folded? And I said, you could dig with it. You could use it as a pick. If you ran out of bullets, you could hit people with it.
Ray and I go back at the Marine Barracks to 03 rifles.
Yeah.
1903.
Yeah.
Springfields.
Well, I still have a great affection for my old M1. Then we went from M1,
M14, and M16,
AR-15.
Right.
Yeah, I remember we got a bunch of AR-15s to field test, and I mean it was an impressive weapon when I first. I mean, it was a weapon that was really good for locations like Southeast Asia.
M6,
you watch the growth of that.
M16, there wasn't any M1s or M14s. Everything in Vietnam was M16.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It was really effective in that. But the other thing that people said is, the tragic side of military thing is the development of medical skills. There's incredible medical skills that come out of emergency treatment, and you see these young men and women that get incredible wounds. And if they can get them back to an aid station in less than an hour, some survival rates are incredible.
Right.
And I talked to some of those guys, and they have far more courage than I would ever have. I mean, the pain and wounds that they've dealt with are so severe, but they've just got that commitment. They want to get well, and they want to get back, with their comrades. But the growths and the spurts of medical science that has actually come out of warfare. It's got a sad side, but a positive side.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people are being saved now that years ago never would.
The ratio of killed to wounded now.
In our time, you'd have been left on the battlefield.
Oh, absolutely.
In the Civil War, if you had a flesh wound, you'd probably die of gangrene.
That's true.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw that as late as Korea, we were losing guys from infection related to broken limbs.
Yep.
Right.
And now the survival rate is
tremendous. Unfortunately, the survival rate of this program is just about coming to an end.
Oh, we'll survive.
That's true. This is our last program, and I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize those who spearheaded this program and the tremendous help we've had along the way. Veterans Forum started about 30 years ago with hosts Marv Hout and Walt Jones, both World War II veterans. Then about 18 years ago, I teamed up with Jim Pritchett Jr., and we had the program for a few years until we had a break in our program. And then about 10 years ago, Ray Chattery said to me, "Hey, Bob, why don't we start Veterans Forum again?" And we did with Jerry Devlin. The program couldn't have lasted this long without the support of the studio. Jim Travlin was our first director. Then Tom Allen and Stacy Gliniak became our much-needed support. We even had our cue coming from Ellen Rauch from time to time. Our support came from the Bowie Community Media Corporation's Kelly Fagan. and Mark Patterson from the city of Bowie, who seem to oversee it all. A lot has changed over the years from the original taping of the programs to now everything is digitized and on YouTube. Our thanks to Mayor Robinson and the City Council for their support. It's hard to believe this is our last show. We hope you enjoyed our programs and benefited from the information provided. Finally, I ask you to get involved with your fellow veterans at our veteran service organizations, the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, the Marine Corps League, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars in the United States. Stop in at one of the posts on Laurel Bowie Road or Route 197 and find out about the benefits you have earned. From Ray, Jerry, and I, we wish you a happy holiday, and thank you very much for watching Veterans Forum.